Well, my friends, wishing you all the best in the coming year. How do we identify ourselves from lifetime to lifetime? Because we come from God's source with only the potential to know ourselves. And this me, what we think of as ourself, is created through energetic patterns that we carry from experience to experience. And we carry these energetic patterns in our blueprint. A blueprint is created. And we can think of this as like the DNA of our consciousness. So we do form individuated consciousness with the experiences that we begin to have as soon as we are in a location where we begin to have experiences. And so all of these experiences are encoded. And we carry this encodement, whether we're in a manifestation or out of a manifestation. So even if we choose to be other species, the pattern of those species is still within us. And that might explain why for some of it is so easy to communicate with other life forms here, because I've been told that I've been other life forms. And so there's a me, even if you decided to be a tree, you still have a consciousness based on this accumulated experience that we call karma. So our long journey creates a very individuated blueprint. And individual light codes, when we take up being a human, well, that's kind of a different story. But when we take up the experience of being a human being, we add existing light codes to being a human being. Now, many of us believe that we were in other star systems before we came here. So we have some encoded information from even those experiences before we became a human on Earth. And when we added our individuated DNA, our individuated blueprint to the humans that we are now, we added that to a set of systems that were in our species. So we took up the ability to create and destroy. We took up the need for food, shelter, entertainment, the things that humans feel that they need here. Now, I've been told that when we take up the human form, have you ever seen, or can you imagine, a clear glass image of a human being? Okay, so it's clear plastic or it's clear glass. And as a human, our beginning of our experience is encoded like wires or threads in that clear image. That's the way it was explained to me. So, the karma that we think of as being ancestral is more likely the karma or the patterns that we developed in past lives, because we're still embedded in time here. So even though they're simultaneous, I don't worry too much about thinking about that, except for a reason that we're going to get to at the end. So say, for example, you had a trauma in one of your past lives. I know my husband was eaten by a tiger in northern India. And that was a very profound experience for him. And so he still does carry a little bit of fear of very large animals. So that was one example that I can think of. My love of nature is carried from the Amazon lifetimes. My fascination and drive to grow food is probably from the one in Peru. So, if you understand your other lifetimes and you have a feeling for who you've been and what you've done, you'll be able to feel how that resonates even in your current lifetime. So people that come in who are musicians, artists, athletes, people who are interested in model railroads in this lifetime probably were involved in the development of railroads and maybe drove railroads, or, well, you don't really drive them, the engineer in the railroad. So these little sort of quirky interests, I've always been fascinated at what fascinates different people. I always have. Anyway. And so we carry encoded in us these other experiences in our current life. And so, excuse me, I've made a lot of notes because I really want to get this one right. So there's good kind of good karma and bad karma. Being eaten by a lion was, I'm sure, not pleasant, and we might identify that as bad karma. And if we have a trauma like that, and there's a situation that's similar, think of that thread being twanged like a guitar string, or if you're thinking of wire with all of these memories, the wire lights up. And of course, we have a word for that now, triggered. But what I really want to get to is how we change our codes and change our karma. And that can be done because it cannot be changed outside of the dimension, if you will, or density or location, whatever word you like to use, where the karma or these patterns, these encoded blueprint, or spiritual DNA, where that was created. And that's why it's really important to ask your guides and angels and really try and remember, get a feeling for other lifetimes. And one of the best ways for me is I recognized people and I'm like, I know they're somebody to me. Who are they? So if you sort of ponder, like, for example, I was somewhere once and I was introduced to somebody and I said, hello, I'm Gretchen. And he said, nice to meet you, Rachel. Well, Rachel was my name in one of my other lifetimes. So that was a dead ringer. I said, oh, he was there. Not that and then actually later on, it came to me who he would have been in that lifetime. And it was a very peripheral relationship. So remembering our lifetimes will give us a hint at the codes that are existing that have become our conscious identity that we will carry until we change them. So there's no reason to change the good ones, the happy ones, the best ones, but there may be a triggering of something that you really can't understand. And I'll give you an example for me. I was really very good looking when I was young. And I was hit on by really, really unpleasant people. It was like, ew. And I always wonder, what do I have a sign on my back that says, hassle this one? She doesn't know how to fight back or something. I mean, where was that coming from? Well, now I know where it was coming from, because in my light code was that lifetime where I was trafficked. So other people might have been responding to that. And that's just small, um, one small strange thing that I've experienced in my life that I think a lot of people experience by random people, you know, kind of hitting on you, like old people. I mean, it was very strange, and I always wondered about that. So when we have in any existing lifetime the willingness, and I think that's where it really has to start, the willingness, no matter what the circumstances are, to forgive both the other person and ourselves for a incident, experience that might have been really unpleasant, or that we might evaluate as damaging. When we get beyond blame, that's a big one. That takes humility and a lot of introspection to get beyond blame. And we can look at our life in a more detached way. When you develop the observer part of your mind, that's able to look in an unemotional way at the experiences that you've had in your life, then you can bring acceptance, you can bring love, you can bring forgiveness to that. And sometimes it starts with only being willing, right? So then, no matter what the circumstances, if we can bring a sense of ourself to those circumstances, and even if they're in the past, to forgive, forget. And there's a reason for this, because enlightenment can't happen outside of the location, density, dimension where the karmic patterns were encoded. So enlightenment has to happen in life if it is to happen at all. And the real importance of me hammering on past lives or simultaneous lives, whichever way you're able to think about them, is when you heal one incident with somebody in a past life, it can heal another one. That looks weird there, but I could draw it. In other words, there's a tangent between forgiving, like my father, and actually getting to the point where I really loved him, no matter if he loved me or not. It didn't matter. It didn't matter if my mother loved me. I loved her. And so that would arc off, although I was never with my mother in any other lifetime, and I never will be. I really didn't have a lot of connection to her, which explained a lot. But I was connected to my father in this lifetime, and my brother, one of my brothers. So to be able to love my father in this lifetime would heal two of the other scenarios that we were playing out in a simultaneous way. There's a tremendous amount of healing between the one where my current husband hung himself and this one. Because when he came to me finally at the age of 42 and said, I'm really sorry, I can't go on, I'm going to kill myself, not because of me this time. And I said, oh no, you're not. And that was the beginning of our time together, even though we had known each other 22 years before that. So he didn't kill himself in this lifetime. We've gone on to have an old age like we had in the one where he built signal fires, where that was the only lifetime that we really became old together. And so when we heal in one lifetime, it affects our light codes and our DNA from all the other ones. And that's why it's important to think about past lives, to think about our traits, to become introspective and try and bring forgiveness, love, and acceptance into anything that has happened to us in this lifetime. Because chances are there is another scenario playing out that's very similar to this one in another part of your blueprint, in another part of your spiritual DNA. So we really can change that, and it's worth doing. All right. So that's my message for today. Until I see you again, please be well and please be blessed. Thanks for coming.